Hello everyone, my name is Masami Soda, Professor of Faculty of Human Science and Director of Center for Research on International Cooperation in Educational Development, University of Tsukuba, Japan. On this BPGI course, initiation course, I provide 2 classes. And the first class and the second class have the same objective. The first objective for this class is what do I want to become? There is a famous person, a play in the theater more than 500 years ago. He said, never forget your initial intentions and never forget your intentions as they emerge. And in Japanese, it says, 初心忘れるべからず、時々の初心忘れるべからず。Do you understand the meaning? It is the same as our university's motto. Imagine the future. This is one of the objectives. You imagine what you want to become. That is the point of those 2 classes. And another point is that let's develop the foundation for changing the world through education. BPGI program is related with changing the world. Okay? And on these 2 classes, I provide the interview of the world-famous education researcher. I asked our alumni. First speaker is Professor Motoko Akiba. In Japanese, Akiba Motoko Sensei. And she is a professor of the Florida State University. I would like to call to Florida. Professor Akiba, hello.
Hi, Professor Isoda. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, it is very much honor for us. We have the opportunity to have an interview to the world internationally famous researchers who are engaging in to change the world from the perspective of education. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, this class are dividing into 3. And part 1, I would like to ask to talk Professor Motoko Akiba about her background and career development. Okay, now time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Professor Isoda. I'm going to share my slide. Okay. Just a moment. Can you see the screen? Let me see. Let me adjust it a little bit. 大丈夫ですか？見えますか? Okay, well, I would like to first appreciate Dr. Isoda's invitations to share my background and career development. So, well, let me first share my current position. I'm a professor of educational policy at Florida State University, and I have a dual role as a researcher and an educator. And as a researcher, I conduct teacher-related policy and reform research, including teachers' professional learning, professionalism, and teachers' working conditions, and from both domestic and cross-national and comparative perspective. And as an educator, I'm teaching graduate courses as well as advising graduate students. Currently, I'm teaching 2 courses. The first course is survey research methods for our in-person master's and doctoral students. And I also advise, my second course is an online course that I'm teaching in educational leadership program. This program is for teachers across Florida who are taking and pursuing our master's degree while pursuing a leadership certificate in the state of Florida. So these are teacher leaders who are aspiring to become assistant principals and principal at school. So I'm teaching these practicing teachers how to develop teacher leadership from principal's perspective. Also, starting from this year, I was appointed as the editor-in-chief of American Educational Research Journal. This is one of the signature journals in the American Educational Research Association, and it covers the field of all education, including education policy, education psychology, teacher education, and so on. And I'm overseeing 5 co-editors and 20 associate editors to review about 1,000 manuscripts we receive around the world. And we select the top 36 articles per year. So it involves lots of review processes, and the time and coordination, working with co-editors and associate editors to select the best quality, quality articles, which has a significant impact on the educational practice and policy.
Thank you very much. And I astonished, Florida State University itself, very famous university in education area. Many graduate students become professor. And I also astonished that the American Educational Research Journal chief editor, Professor Dr. Akiba is the chief editor-in-chief. American Educational Research Journal is very much famous in the world. And every educational researchers have opportunity to read. I astonished. And it is very much proud of us. We have such a professors in alumni. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Isoda. Well, this is such a great opportunity for me because we receive manuscript from so many different countries. So as the editor-in-chief, I get to learn about various educational problems, educational policies, and practices in so many different national and cultural contexts. So it has been such a great opportunity for me. So I would like to share my background a little bit so that you can get to know me better. And so I was born in Ibaraki Prefecture in the northern part. And but my father was a police officer, so that meant that he was transferred to one place to another every few years, and we moved with him. So as a result, I went to 3 different elementary schools and 2 different middle schools, and from every part of Ibaraki. So I transferred quite a bit, and that was a very unique experience for me. And when I got to high school, I had opportunities to participate in the homestay programs in New Zealand. This was part of the partnership between the Hokuta First University, Hokuta First High School that I attended, and the local Lions Club, the philanthropy a group that sponsored the students to study in New Zealand through a homestay program. So I was, as one of students in English club in that high school, I was selected, and I could spend about a month during summer in New Zealand, and I get to attend high schools in there. So that really opened my eyes. I learned so much about the cultural differences between Japan and New Zealand, and learning that and realizing how we as Japanese think and act are very unique to our own culture. And there are so many different ways of thinking and acting based on the cultural background. So that truly opened my eye, and that was such a great experience. And in 1994, I was fortunate to enter the University of Tsukuba. And so at that time, because of that homestay program, I was looking for a university which would give me those international experience. And the Tsukuba University was the best place for me to definitely, receive education from. And as you know, the University of Tsukuba has so many different exchange programs in many different countries. So when I was a junior in my third year, I had opportunity to study at the University of Pennsylvania for 1 year. And I took various undergraduate and graduate courses. And that was I learned so much about research methods, anthropology of education, all the new knowledge that I could gain, even though, it was an extremely difficult experience for me because my English was not um, that proficient, but I studied very hard and communicated with my classmates and learned from the professor. And that 1 year experience really helped me think about my future career. And around that time, during as a University of Tsukuba student, I had opportunities to study under my professors in educational system, research group, and shared my research interest on school bullying, ijime in Japanese, and that I received so much, wonderful advice from the professors, many of whom had actually conducted research in the U.S. Um, about various educational system and policy topics, and they helped me really introduce me about this, field of education research. So I was really motivated after studying at University of Pennsylvania and through the advice from my professors that, I would like to apply for graduate schools in the US. So when I graduated in 1998, I was admitted into the Pennsylvania State University. This university, is unique in a way that it offers a dual PhD degree in both education policy and comparative international education. So, as a Japanese, I wanted to conduct the comparative international educations, comparing Japan and the US. But also, I wanted to know more education policy because the policy has a significant impact on the professional lives of teachers and the principals and the students, and it can make a systematic change. So that's how I have made all these educational decisions, which I benefit tremendously from through the advice and guidance from so many professors at the University of Tsukuba, at University of Pennsylvania, and from Pennsylvania State University. And so in 2001, I could obtain PhD in education theory and policy and comparative international educations. So.
Thank you very much. It is very much interesting that you, Professor Akiba, changed the living place several times until university already. This is a technical question for the BPGI student. They want to go abroad while the undergraduate. How did you find and got the opportunity to study University of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at that time, I was looking for various opportunities to study abroad, and I talked with my professor. And at that time, they told me the University of Penn they have just built a partnership with
Mm-hmm.
campus, the University of Pennsylvania,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
they were looking for a few students. So
Mhm.
I was one of the 3 students who were selected to study over there from the University of Tsukuba. I was only one from the in the education field or Ningen Gakuri. And then there was another student from international program, and then another. No, actually, I was one of the 2. Yeah, I now I remember. So that happened to be one of the program, and there was other programs, studying in UK and in other place. But the professor strongly recommended that I study at UPenn because it's the Ivy League school, and
Yeah.
it's a new partnership, and he was very excited. So based on his recommendation, I decided to study there.
Uh-huh. And about the scholarship,
Mhm.
who provided the
Yes.
scholarship?
So
If we try to go to United States, it must be expensive.
Yes, yes, definitely. So for my PhD program,
Uh-huh.
I had a research assistantship,
Uh-huh.
but that was like right after I arrived. So, but before that, I applied for so many different scholarship, and of course my parents are not wealthy, so I couldn't afford the tuition and living expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied for like a Rotary scholarship program,
Mm-hmm.
and I was fortunate to
Mm-hmm.
receive the scholarship, but that scholarship covered only the first year.
Okay.
So, when I was admitted by Pennsylvania State University, I talked with the assigned academic advisor, and then
Mm-hmm.
he told me that, well, there's opportunities to receive research assistantship, for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so that was really encouraging. And then once I went there, I could apply for it, and then I was fortunate to get the funding.
Uh-huh. It is excellent experience. Thank you very much. Go next.
Okay. Okay, so now I want to talk about since I graduated from Pennsylvania State University. So I did a 1-year postdoctoral experience at Mills College, and I studied lesson study. And as you know, Dr. Isoda, Professor Isoda is an expert on lesson study, and so I was my uh, academy professors, Dr. Litendra at Pennsylvania State University, knew Professor Catherine Lewis, and because both of them are expert on Japanese education, and so he connected me with her, Dr. Lewis, who was doing lesson study research at Mills College, and they were looking for some postdoctoral researchers who can assist and work with her on lesson study project in California. So I did 1 year postdoctoral, experience, and through her project, I got to visit for the first time various schools who were practicing lesson study in mathematics, and it was a great experience because lesson study was new to many of the teachers in California, but they saw that as a really powerful learning tool, learning process. And they enjoy this, process of developing a lesson plan, one of the teachers teaching the lesson, while other teachers observing it, and collecting data, and having a debriefing session afterward to really discuss, what went well, what didn't work well, how the students' learning was promoted through the particular instructional material or approaches. So I got to learn the power of lesson study, which I was really proud of as a Japanese um, you know uh, that in the US and so many other countries around the world are practicing lesson study that originated from Japan. So after 1 year of experience, I applied for senior researcher positions. And at McGraw, the McGraw is one of the educational laboratory under the U.S. Department of Education. And so they oversee, there are about 10 of them, there may be more right now, but they oversee neighboring states. So the McGraw was at Colorado, but we oversaw like 7 neighboring states around Colorado to support the educational um, you know, local authority agencies, so school districts and the school leaders. And we provide professional development, but also share various research we do and practice-based research in the sense that that is easier to understand by practitioners. So through that experience, I learned how to translate those technical research into something that any practitioner can easily understand and apply to their practice and leadership. So after 2 years, I have been, and during those 2 years, I've been, continuing to communicate with my advisor at Penn State University, my mentor. And also I realized that, I definitely like to I think as my work during the postdoc and as a senior researcher, I miss the opportunity to work with students, and that's something that I really appreciated when I was a student. My work and guidance and education I received from my professors. So I wanted to have that interaction with my own students. So I applied for a faculty position, and I became assistant professor at the University of Missouri Columbia in 2003. And I was there for about 9 years. At the end, I had opportunities to take 1 year sabbatical. At the time, I could visit, I could conduct research on teacher professional learnings at Beijing Normal University and National Taiwan Normal University and the University of Tsukuba. And that's when also Professor Isoda helped me a lot with my research. And then in 2012, I moved to Florida State University. So it's already about 12 years ago. And then I was promoted to professor at FSU in 2016. I had opportunities
I'm not quite
to
sure how to help you with that.
become the department chair in 2019, and I completed 3-year terms there. And this year, I became the editor-in-chief of ARJ, which is another sort of research-related leadership opportunities.
It is very much interesting history. And for becoming the top researcher, until becoming the top researchers, change several positions and several experiences. That is a good model for the BPDI student. Thank you.
Thank you. For me, it was, living in different states across the US really helped me understand the regional differences and also the experience of um, the various, individuals, educational experiences based on the race, based on gender, and so those, different positions and different locations help me better understand the landscape of the U.S. and the complexity and diversity in educational policies and the populations and everything that really helped me pursue my own research.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So I'd like to now talk about my career decision. So when I was up to my high school years, I was wanting to become a high school math teacher. I'm in high school, I was in math and science track, and I was, one of the five girls in the class of, 50 students. I was, I really enjoyed math and I wanted to become high school math teachers. But when I started to apply for the University of Tsukuba, and that was when those, recommendation-based entrance the system has just started. So I was one of the first students to be admitted through the recommendation entrance, so the 推薦入学. And the preparing for that, it really made me realize really there are just so many different positions related to education as well. So of course, I entered the University of Tsukuba with the intent to pursue teacher education program to become a teacher. But after I entered, as I shared, I had opportunities to work with my professors and graduate students in education system research group. And many of the professors, told me about positions as an educational researcher, which I didn't know much about back then. My parents are both only high school educated. So, growing up, I didn't know much about those positions as a researcher and in the education field, but just learning from and really seeing how my professors are conducting research, not only in Japan, but in the US, in so many different countries, conducting comparative research. That really fascinated me. So that's when I started to join those research group and learning from my graduate students and the professors, I developed my interest to become an educational researcher. But when I decided to apply for graduate school, because in education field has so many different fields, I needed to choose one area. Just because I had opportunity to study in educational system research group. So, educational policy was something that I was very interested in the sense that the policy can make a major impact, the national impact, to improve the professional lives of teachers, principals, and all the educational leaders and the students. So I decided to become educational policy researcher during the graduate schools. And of course, I was majoring in educational policy and comparative education research. So, but, I didn't really think that I'm qualified to become a university professor. So, I was thinking about, yes, I'm interested in researcher, but I'm not, really sure, I can be a university, professor. So, that's how I did, 1 year postdoctoral experience, and then also worked as a senior researcher. And during those 2 years working as a researcher, I realized that, as I shared, I really miss interacting with my students, uh, something that I really benefited from at the University of Tsukuba, as well as Penn State University. So that's how I decided to pursue the faculty position at university, so that I can do both research and educate future generation of educators and researchers.
Thank you very much. The un, for undergraduate, which grade you participated in the research group?
I started right away. Actually, my professor was Professor Kubota,
Mm-hmm.
um, and Kubota Sensei, encouraged me to join the research group.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I visited several different research groups. I visited at psych research group, and then I visited education system group, and I really like, I guess the concept of education system, education policy.
Mhm.
And so really it was Professor Kubota who encouraged me to,
Uh-huh.
to join. And
It
then
means
of
the
course, yeah, as a
first
freshman, yeah, I attended.
flame freshman. Wow,
Yes,
from the
yeah.
first grade. Wow. Yeah, it is also recommended to the BPGI student. Thank you very much. So this is, thank you very much for this is the end of the part one. We would like to begin part two. The title is Overcoming Life Challenges by Professor Motoko Akiba. Please.
Thank you, Professor Isoda. Okay, so I'd like to talk about various challenges that I have experienced over the years. So I'm going to use the same chronicle methods. And so really the challenge that I have experienced is related to my own background as well as a societal structure. So my my parents, especially my mom, is a strong advocate of gender equity because she, as a as a female, she was, and she is originally. My parents are both originally from Yamagata Prefecture, so in a rural setting, and the children are farmers. So and of course, that was many, many years ago. So she could not receive the education she wanted. She was a brilliant student, but she didn't receive the equitable education as a girl, while her brother graduated from university, and her parents, or my grandparents, devoted their resource to support my uncle. So my mom really what dream was for me to receive equitable education opportunities to realize my potential. So when I was in schools, that was you're talking about 40 over 40 years ago, so many years ago. The situation has changed a lot, but I went to various different schools, but in one of the rural schools that I attended, my homeroom teachers told us that only boys can become a class representative. So, probably that kind of thing will never happen nowadays. But that's the kind of thing that I have observed. Also, I saw that, even though boys and girls were doing well as well academically, when I looked at the school principal, somehow all the school principals were male. There, I had no female principal. So because of my mom's education, I was really keen. I became aware of various gender inequities that I saw, and that I think those are the kind of thing that also when I saw the various positions as a researchers or professors, there was gender inequities that I didn't see a lot many role model as a female professor or female researchers. And that is also the same as the politicians, doctors. And so when I studied, well, I think that was a sort of like first challenge that I've saw. And my educational career was driven by seeking that opportunities, seeking the environment where I can be supported. And so that was the first challenge. And then the second challenge was school bullying. I share that I went to multiple schools, because of the transfer of my father's job as a police officer. So I was always a newcomer to the schools, and I spoke a slightly different dialect and maybe the way that so I was very different. So I experienced school bullying, and often as a victim of school bullying. But also I was, I bullied others as well as a kind of socially excluded other students. And the school bullying was something that was prevalent. Even though I went to so many different schools, every school had school bullying. And also that's a problem, a global problem, as I started to understand as I researched school bullying later on. And then when I came to the US, one of the things was that, in educational field, there are more female professors than the male professors. So, there was I didn't experience gender inequality, but then in the US, I experienced racial inequality because I, as a Asian student, there was always a white students who are given the best opportunities. And for you to become, you are one of the minoritized group of students. So for you to be, um, you know, to receive opportunities, you have to really prove yourself that how um, that you have to work twice as hard as other white students, and show that you are capable and you have that ability. So that the racial inequality challenges include racial biases and stereotypes. So that was something I continued to experience throughout my professional lives in the U.S. Even though there's educational right, equitable rights, but in reality, there are definitely different opportunities provided. You have to really always fight for your rights and ask for the opportunities. So when I got to become the department chair, that was when I had these leadership opportunities to really change that kind of inequality. So I was able to provide trainings on diversity and equity and inclusions for faculty member because those racial biases and stereotypes comes from the misunderstanding or lack of cultural awareness among faculty members, among students. Um, and so raising those awareness really helped um, make the departmental environment more equitable and inclusive. So all those challenges that I've experienced became my drive for taking the actions. When I finally got to the leadership position, and through then I could also, through my own experience of being treated differently, I can now connect with other minoritized group of students and faculty, Black faculty member, Latinx faculty members, Native American faculty members. United States is a really diverse countries, and really equity is such an important, critical aspect of the societies that we have to really pursue through education. And I got to actually take action through leadership positions to make the climate more inclusive and equitable. Okay, so these are the sort of challenges that I have experienced throughout my life, and I wanted to connect that with the problem awareness, the mondai ishiki in Japanese, because when you experience various problems, or through your daily experience or through your observation, that becomes your motivation and drive for conducting research. You want to know why this various problem happens and what can you do about it. So those various challenges that I've experienced throughout my life has um, has given me the motivations to conduct research, to have a better understanding and seek solution. So for example, along these, different stages of my career, because of my own experience with school bullying, at the University of Tsukuba students, I decided to write a thesis on school bullying. And my professor told me about, school bullying research is very active in England. So I decided to conduct a literature review uh, and reviewing all the literature on school bullying in England. And I discovered that there are so many prevention programs that have been implemented in England and has been successful. And so I continue that interest through my PhD research and expanded to school violence and the role of educational system. So I wrote these, three essay dissertations, and one of the dissertation looked at the role of academic competitions in the school violence or bullying in Japanese context. And because really the school bullies involve some kind of human power relationships. When you are um, when you are um, feeling, you're being made to feel powerless, then you want to feel powerful, and the school, you may bully other students to feel good and powerful about themselves. So that's why I was interested in the relationship between educational system and school violence. So there are so many other problems, such as, multicultural teacher education. When I was a assistant professor, I was assigned to teach diversity topics to pre-service teacher education students. So, but many white students resisted learning about the topic. So I did research on that topic. Also, in mid-career, I started to become more interested in teacher professional development because many teachers' professional learning opportunities was pretty limited. So that's where I started to learn more about lesson study. And currently, I'm looking at teachers' workload and equity issues. Many, especially after COVID-19, many teachers struggle with the heavy workload and the stress and, burnout and so on. So I'm looking at, how, teachers' professionalism, the workload may compare in the US and Japan. Okay, so I would like to encourage that, in your daily experience, it's important to critically think about your experience or observation. And you can continue to ask why, how, and why, and investigate through the research, literature review. You can always talk with your professor about the problem and discussion and potential research topics. And you can identify focus research topic related to the problem. And this is something that you may pursue based on your problem awareness, identify issue based on your experience. You may decide on your dissertation your undergraduate thesis topic later on.
Thank you very much about the problem awareness. And in the case of BPGI program student, they are related to research in relation to SDGs. And education is SDG 4, but inequality is related to the SDG 5, and violence is related to the SDG 16. And from the perspective of education, we can challenge. We understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Part 3, Finding Problems in Educational Research. This is a lecture by Professor Motoko Akiba. Please.
Thank you. Okay, so in this last part of my talk, I would like to talk about research process in education because all of you will be conducting research uh, before your graduation on the top educational topic. So I'd like to talk about 5 major stages of educational research. The first, is always, start from problem awareness, as we talked about. And based on that, you can identify specific problem and develop research questions. But then you can conduct literature review, followed by collecting data and analyzing the data. Based on that data as evidence, you will report your findings and make recommendations. And I'm going to talk about each process one by one. So all research processes start from your problem awareness. So in your daily life, what situation do you notice as problematic? As a student, you have various experiences going through your educational systems, interacting with your peers, teachers, and principals. And so, you have a lot of experience that, you can really think about, what situation do you notice as problematic and may needs improvement. So I'd like to, in this talk, I'd like to use the example of school bullying. As school bullying is a global problems that is suffering so many children around the globe. So, and this is happened to be the topic that I focused on in my undergraduate thesis, and that's a topic something that probably most of you can relate to. So the second stage is based on the problem awareness, you identify the specific problems and you can specify the focus of your investigation and develop research questions. For example, when you think about school bullying, the ijime, there are so many different aspects that you can conduct research on. For example, what is a type of bullying? There are physical bullying, there's a verbal bullying, there's a social bullying, that which is like exclusion from a social group. And also cyberbullying is really becoming very prevalent in the sense that, every students use social media and the bullying can happen through social media. And also you can focus on, causes of bullying. Why do bullying happens, and why it seems to be prevalent in so many different schools around the world. So something to do, maybe to do with power relationships and human nature. So that's another aspect you can do research. Also, you can think about consequences bullying. What happened to those victims of bullies? That can be the school absence. It could be a major depression. It could affect the student achievement. There are so many negative consequences of bullying. At the same time, you can also research, what kind of prevention or intervention program exists for school bullying. Because school bullying is a global issue, there are so many research that has been done and various programs do exist. And researchers have examined various effectiveness of interventions and prevention programs. So that's another really important aspect of research on school bullying. And finally, you can also look at school policy and climate. Are there any school climate that seems to promote school bullying or prevent school bullying? Is in the classroom where students feel a sense of belonging, do they are they less likely to experience school bullying and so on? So As you can see, when you pick just a topic of school bullying as an example, that topic can be studied from multiple aspects. So you have to really identify specific focus. So your research questions can be, if you're focusing on school policy, for example, what school policy have been used to prevent school bullying? Are these school policy effective in reducing school bullying? So once you develop your research question, then you can start on the literature review. Through a literature review on the focus research topic, you will find what is known through previous research. You can use keywords in educational databases such as ERIC, and there are Japanese databases as well, to find relevant literatures. The literatures can include those journal articles, books, book chapters, and reports of governments or any research association groups. For example, for school policy on school bullying, you can use a keyword of school bullying and school policy. The next stage is data collection and analysis. Now that you know what is currently known about the specific topic based on the literature review, you can design your research methods and prepare for data collection and actually collect the data and analyze the data. There are so many different research methods that exist that you may learn a little bit from, but many of those research methods are taught at graduate level. There are qualitative research methods, there are quantitative research methods, there are mixed methods, and there are conceptual studies. So qualitative methods involve interview, observation, document analysis, and then you will code the text to analyze those data. In quantitative, you may use survey or you may conduct experiment. You use statistics for analysis. Mixed method is a combination of qualitative and quantitative methods. Or your research may be conceptual. You may really discuss the theories to understand the problems or topic, or you may conduct a synthesis of literature, just like I did for my undergraduate thesis. So, for example, using a qualitative methods, you may interview teachers who implemented a zero tolerance policy on bullying. So a zero tolerance policy is one of the popular policies in the United States. They use for school bullying too. Basically, if you bully any students, you will be suspended from school. So basically, it's a severe, methods to punish the bullies. And so that's how you prevent the bullying. But of course, the effectiveness of that has been debated based on research over the years. And so that's one example. Then finally, after you collected data and analyzed, then it's time for you to report the findings. And based on the findings, you can offer recommendation. For example, you may find that the teacher reported that zero tolerance policy on school bullying is not effective because of the difficulty in identifying bullies in social and cyberbullying. In most cases, students do not, I guess in the case of social and cyberbullying, it is really difficult to identify who the bullies are because there may be multiple students. And then other students may not want to report to teachers for the fear of retaliation. So it's really difficult to actually implement that kind of policy. So then based on the findings, that the teacher shared, then recommendation may be that the school needs to implement another policies to effectively prevent and school bullying. So I quickly went through these, 5 stages of the research process, and using the example of focusing on school policy on school bullying. And so I hope you found these example helpful, and I wish you the best of luck with your senior thesis later on.
Thank you very much. It is very much honor to have the lectures of the world famous alumni. Thank you very much, Professor Akiba. Thank you very much, Professor Akiba. The objective of this class is what do I want to become? And let's develop the foundation for changing the world through education. And all of you know now, Professor Akiba is our model to become the professor who will trying to changing the world through education. Thank you very much, Professor Akiba.
Thank you, Professor Isoda, for the opportunities. I truly enjoyed. Thank you.
And lastly, of course, you may possible to search the way to contact with Professor Akiba. However, one of the point Professor Akiba mentioned is that while undergraduate, please belong to the research group. And Center for Research on International Cooperation in Educational Development, our centers provide you the opportunity to work and study together. Thank you very much, Professor Akiba, for today.
Thank you.